You know, with things like the new Jango Fett Slave 1 coming out recently, it's really made me think about the LEGO Star Wars theme as a whole. Like, whenever I go to my local toy stores, I still see so many sets coming from this theme that are all from the original trilogy. And especially when I've seen loads of hype around things like the Slave 1, and the Revenge of the Sith re-release that, by the way, has been one of the most successfully re-released films, it makes me wonder why LEGO aren't making more prequel-style sets, as there's clearly an audience for it. What would LEGO do if they took advantage of this market?
Well, for starters, I think there would be a lot less repeating sets. I don't know how many times I've overheard somebody in conversation talking about the latest X-Wing. I also think it'd be really cool to see more unique areas and ships focused on in the LEGO theme.
And I do think LEGO are getting better at this with sets like that Slave 1, and things like the Obi-Wan Starfighter and the Arc 170. But none of these sets really show off the budget of LEGO Star Wars. Like, where are the new characters, the new aliens, the new molds? Apart from figures like Plo Koon, we haven't really seen many prequel figures get the treatment of new molds. And it's annoying because if you look at things like the Star Wars games or even Fortnite, we can see a lot of cool figures that we're missing out on. And it did get me thinking about what Star Wars could do to give us more figures like these without necessarily putting them in sets. You know, something like a collectible minifig series.
And I think it's obvious, right? I don't think I'm the first person to think that a Star Wars CMF would be a good thing. I really do think it's the perfect option. It gives us minifigures we haven't seen for years, it gives them the detail that they deserve with the extra budget, and it's something that the Marvel CMF is already doing. I know in the past I've complained a little bit about getting sort of random minifigures in the Marvel CMF, and wish they would go more OG Infinity Saga, just because we never got the detail that CMFs can provide in early Marvel. But Star Wars is already doing that. They already have some of the best minifigures in sets.
Problem is they don't want to make sets based on episodes 1, 2, or 7, 8, and 9, because they wouldn't sell as well as sets based on 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think this is actually the exact reason that Harry Potter doesn't really need another CMF series. Like Star Wars, Harry Potter is one of the best-selling themes, and that clearly shows in things like the sets and the figs. But the main difference between Harry Potter and Star Wars is that Harry Potter makes sets from every movie, and all the figures get the same treatment. They also make random scenes, so every minifigure is pretty much accounted for, and Star Wars just simply don't do this.
But there's obviously issues with the Star Wars CMF. I know you've already been typing them in the comments whilst I've been talking. If you didn't know, there's this common theory within the LEGO Star Wars fandom that they can't make a Star Wars CMF. To cut a very long story short, Hasbro basically have all of the manufacturing rights to making Star Wars action figures. And through doing a bunch of research and talking to certain people, it basically comes down to the conclusion of, are LEGO minifigures counted as action figures? And if they count as a separate thing, it technically means that LEGO could just straight up sell you one.
But if LEGO haven't made a CMF yet, surely there's a reason, right? Well, they kinda have made one. Let me explain.
You see, LEGO have these sort of workarounds that I don't really see many people talking about when it comes to selling minifigures individually. First off, there are May the 4th promos, which sometimes give you a minifigure that's just a straight up minifigure in a bag, and they give it to you for free for spending a lot in the LEGO store specifically on Star Wars things. But I guess it would be hard to sell a CMF if they're giving them away for free, so what about if they're attached to a magazine? Well, the same premise kind of applies. If you didn't know, here in the UK and Europe, LEGO sell magazines in most convenience stores and supermarkets. And sometimes the LEGO Star Wars magazine has a minifigure taped to the front.
Now, if you don't know what these look like, they look like this. And if they aren't available where you are, I'm going to be giving some of these away over on my Whatnot stream on the 21st of June at 9 PM.
Now, if you don't know what Whatnot is, it's a streaming app that's kind of a mix of Twitch and eBay. It basically allows me to live stream to an audience, and I can auction off some of my own collection that I don't really need anymore.
Now, this video isn't sponsored by Whatnot, but I just thought I'd let you know, as I'm going to be auctioning off some rare items and figures to help fund future projects.
And I'd rather it go into another person's collection instead of gathering dust in mine. So make sure you're using my link in the description below to sign up to Whatnot. Not only will that take you straight to my stream where you can bookmark it, it'll also give you £10 or $15 to spend on my stream or anybody else's stream. So whether you're coming for the auction or you just want to come and hang out for a bit and maybe win some giveaways,
I hope to see you there this Saturday, June 21st at 9 PM. But enough of that, let's get back to the video.
But it's like I said before, people are buying the magazine and just getting the minifigure as a free gift. And something about these figures is they're mostly just reused stock. You'll never see a unique minifigure on sale through these magazines like you do in the special books.
So that means we're all good, right? LEGO have never really offered you a way of getting unique minifigures that you can just buy individually, right? Well, believe it or not, about 5 years ago, LEGO celebrated the 20th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, and with that came a very small line of sets. Some of them even straight up remaking sets that we'd seen in the past.
But one set was slightly different.
The last set was an Obi-Wan figure that came in its own poly bag that you could just straight up buy from a LEGO store, aka a way of buying a unique minifigure from LEGO directly. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems to me like LEGO just selling you a Star Wars figure. And it's not like the extra pieces matter here. Here's a minifigure that did the exact same thing but didn't even have pieces in the bag.
Stuff like this proves to me that LEGO can sell minifigures on their own if they wanted to. They just choose not to. Now, of course, I'm not LEGO. There could legitimately be some reason that they cannot make CMFs, and they have to go through all of these loopholes to try and figure it out. But for me, I've got a little bit of a tinfoil hat theory that makes a lot more financial sense for LEGO.
Now, this is all speculation on my part. I have no idea whether this is true, but imagine for a second that LEGO didn't want you to think that they could make a Star Wars CMF. Well, I want to turn your attention back to those anniversary sets that I just mentioned. To give you a little bit more context if you don't know what these are, LEGO made a series of anniversary sets. These were great little Star Wars locations that not only came with the normal amount of figures, but also came with a classic anniversary minifigure. These anniversary minifigures were not only unique, but were also remakes of some of the earliest minifigures in Star Wars, and were a great collectible series for the limited time that they were around. And these minifigures were technically new. They had a new logo printed on their back, which differentiated them from their classic counterparts. But the fact that they were new didn't really matter to me. What mattered to me was the fact that they were adding what essentially is a random minifigure to a anniversary set. Now, everybody thought this was a great idea, and you saw waves of fans going out and collecting these sets specifically for these anniversary figures. And maybe you can see where I'm going with this, but recently they've done the exact same thing with the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars. And the weirdest part is, unlike the 20th anniversary, where the minifigures didn't really seem to go with the sets that they were in but could be displayed together, these minifigures came from completely random movies. For example, this Sith Infiltrator set from Episode 1.
It came with Sol Guerrera from Rogue One, and the R2-D2 set that came out recently came with Darth Malak, who's from the video games.
It made it abundantly clear that if we were going to get a Star Wars CMF, this is the way that they're going to do it.
And it makes you think a little bit. If LEGO had done 12 of these minifigures and put them into boxes, with the scanning apps that exist nowadays, you don't really need to hunt for a CMF anymore, which means that LEGO are mostly making $5, maybe $10 per minifig. But now make that same minifigure and put it in a $100 set that has nothing to do with the minifigure itself. LEGO know people want that minifigure, so people are going to go out of their way to buy that set just for that minifig. Now, instead of $10 I'm making on that minifig, I'm making $100. Now do the same across 6 other sets in the wave and you've made millions. And we've seen that people will go crazy over these kinds of sets because they're branded as some sort of collector's item.
And it just goes to show that Star Wars really would benefit from a CMF. But why would LEGO do this when they can just do this method and make way more money? Now, I'd like to think with the amount of people these days that are into the prequels, we'll just start seeing more prequel sets and figures. There's nothing I'd like more than a re-release of the Darth Vader transformation chamber. That was one of my favorite sets growing up. But I don't know, I just feel like LEGO would go down the money-hungry option, but maybe that's just me thinking too much like a businessman. Only time will tell, I guess, but let me know what you'd like to see from a Star Wars CMF in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.